Just start talking, he said. Well, I guess we can do that. We're just walking by and saw these nice, comfortable lounge chairs and thought, hey, let's just go up and sit here. Any of you folks watched any of the Trainers Showdown challenge events so far today or this weekend? All right. For those of you who haven't, I'll just quickly introduce the trainers. And on the far side of the couch over there is Jason Irwin from Port Elgin, Ontario. And Jason and his wife, Bronwyn, are the co-hosts of a great program on RFD television and on the Cowboy Channel called The Horse Trainers. And you know, the best thing about that show is the introduction and the background music. Man, it's true. The rest of it you don't have to see, but it's worth watching just for that.
Well, the secret to that one was we found somebody that looked and sounded like the Canadian Sam Elliott. So we put him on there, and that kind of got the show rolling.
But these guys have done so much, and they just got back from an episode, believe it or not, of Canadian Idol with Howie Mandel, and I don't know who those other two weird people were, but that was, you're going to have to tell us a little bit about doing that as we roll along. And next to Jason is the vivacious Wylene Wilson. Wylene was in one of the old main event trainers challenges. Got to be at least 10 years ago, eh, Wylene? And you were supposed to do one in Chilliwack, but if I remember, just before that, you had a pretty bad wreck with a horse and broken a couple of vertebrae. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so 2 weeks before the show, I broke my back, and I had to call up the director and go, by the way, I'm not going to, I won't compete, but I still came. And then I filled the space with my friend Jenny Sherbo, and she represented herself really well, and I was proud she was there.
Had you and Jenny ever met before that?
Oh, yeah.
You had,
we had been,
okay.
and her and I had been friends for years, and I just thought, who can I call that can fill this spot? And she was on it, so yeah.
Terrific. Oh, my gosh. And you have come, I mean, you were pretty great then, but boy, you've come a long ways, I'd say, even since then.
Hey, thanks. I'm just having a good time. It's been fun. This has been a nice show to be involved in, and just the camaraderie and the support and all the warmth. I mean, Canada's just been fantastic.
Except for the Oilers beating the Kings. That was.
Except for the what?
The Oilers beating the Los Angeles Kings last night.
I have no idea, because
eliminating
I like horses,
them. Oh,
you know.
okay.
I'm not I like horses and people. I don't really care about the sports.
Okay.
But I'm glad you're upset about it.
Well, I'm not upset about it. Nobody's upset about that up here. And Dustin Sippola, long-time, genuine, just salt of the earth working cowboy, comes from that special elite background that it seems like only a chosen few are really privileged to live. All your life, every day, horseback in great, big, beautiful country, working with cattle, starting colts and everything, and that's Dustin Sippola. That if you've been watching, you'll know how good he is. Great to have you back, Dustin.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be here. It's been a good weekend, and I'm slowly getting better at these, learning to talk. First one I did, I didn't say too much.
No, and once these guys learn to talk, then it's pretty hard to get them to shut up. But in the meantime, you're pulling the words out of them. And of course, my co-host, the winner of last year's Trainers Showdown, did a great job. Him and Jason were just a few points apart, but he's won many, many of these over the years. I've known him since he was a little kid. I've known his dad and ridden miles with his dad, and I knew his grandpa as well. So it's great to have what was your name again? Cade Mills back here.
Thanks, Hugh. Yeah, it's been an interesting change this year, but it's been fun watching you guys all weekend and trying to do a little announcing. But I know what you're saying about the talking thing. I know when I first started doing these, nothing scared me more than the mic. I'd rather one blow up than buck than have them hand me that microphone at the start of the day, and I'd be feeling good, and then they'd be like, okay, time to mic up, and I'd just go pale.
I think the first time I interviewed, it was you or somebody, anyway, he sat in just a regular kitchen chair, and he thought the mic was a loaded 45, you know. We get talking, and I pointed it to him, and he'd back up, pointed again, and he'd back up until he went over backwards in the chair, so.
Yeah. It's intimidating, Hugh.
Well, until you kind of get a feel for it.
Yeah.
And then you get comfortable. You're getting pretty comfortable with it, I find.
Yeah, getting a little bit. As long as I can be half sarcastic, it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, It's when they first started the main events years ago, can't remember what year it was, they asked me if I'd like to take part, and I could be either a judge or one of the trainers or do the commentary. And that was a really quick answer for me, because most of the trainers, in a lot of cases, are friends of mine, people I know too well. I can't judge them, really. I don't want to do that. I was getting too old to be a trainer anyway by that point, but I said, give me the mic and I'll be totally happy.
Yeah, I would hate to have to judge these events, especially this trainer challenge. If you guys have been following along, this one has been close. All of you guys have seemed to have your own kind of success, and everybody seems to be moving along every session. So them judges got their work cut out for them on this one, and I think the finals are going to be just as close from what I've seen so far. So I'm excited to see it. Can't come fast enough.
Wylene, were you in, seems to me you were in the Road to the Horse one year in a wild card.
Yeah, in 2021, I participated in the wild card.
What's that experience like?
It's fantastic, actually. You know, I think a lot of people would love to be on that world stage, if you will, and it's difficult to get in the sense that, you know, I think for the wild card portion, they're just trying to bring in up-and-coming trainers. Obviously, your staple clinicians that have TV shows, they normally get the main spot. And so when they opened it up to the wild card, once Road to the Horse shifted their program, they called me and said, hey, we would love to have you. And I said, oh, it'd be an honor. And, you know, I had a lot of questions about, is that difficult? Were you nervous? Are you prepared? And my answer to that was, my whole life I've prepared for this moment. And I think as we walk into a ramp, and I'm sure these gentlemen can say the same thing, your whole life prepares you to walk into that pen with that horse. And it's about reading the situation and reading your animal and adapting to what you have with you at that moment, because it can fluctuate and change so quickly. And so Road to the Horse is great because it allows people to kind of see what's going on. I actually love it that we're individually going one at a time so you can see everything. My only pick apart from Road to the Horse is when you got all three guys going, three girls going, whatever's happening, you lose being able to see every single round. So I've appreciated it being one-on-one with the audience because it allows them to see the different techniques that we all bring to the table. And you know, there's multiple ways to work with a horse, and I love being able to educate and have fun with a crowd and just
Yeah, we can see that.
yeah, so Road to the Horse was just was a dream come true to be part of, and if any of you watched it, it was also the most devastating weekend of my life. So, but it also all came together at the same time for showcasing who I am, what I do, and leaving a horse better than I found it. So
Right.
I watched that year, Wylene, and you handled it well. It was a weird technicality there with the
Yep.
rope and everything else,
Yep.
and it was such a foolish thing because it wasn't horse training at the end
Right.
that had a little bit of the setback, right? It was a weird technicality, yeah.
yeah, it was all rules, you know.
Yeah, it really was, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think maybe just the finals and everything had that colt hopped up, but it was a great year to watch,
You know,
for sure.
and I appreciate you saying that, but when I went to do my last round, my goal was to kill it in the obstacle course and just nail it, and I did. It
You
just
did.
didn't show up the way I wanted
You
it
just
to.
needed a little more time too, right?
Yeah.
60
yeah.
feet of rope.
It was, I would not trade it for anything. Any of these competitions, anytime I get to come and spend time with people and have experiences, it's worth it. You know,
Yeah.
there's so many people that would trade places with me, and I know that. So I feel honored and humbled to be part of it, truly.
I did like watching you here this weekend, though, because watching you at the Road to the Horse, I got to see your style a little bit, but I didn't get to see so much of the why. So this weekend, we all got to learn a little bit more about you and get to hear about why you're doing the things you're doing. So it's definitely more informative here than it was to watch the Road to the Horse.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and
Yeah.
this is great because I was able to communicate with the audience.
For
The Road to
sure.
the Horse, it's almost too big and it's hard to really connect with the audience. And clearly, I want everybody to be involved in the process of what this colt is going through,
For sure.
right? Because that's what you're here for, is just the demonstration of how we would do it.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful that I'm given access to that. So it's been fun, so fun.
I found judging the Road to the Horse, I think it was in 2013, with all those round pens going at one time,
Yeah.
really hard because it's so easy to miss something crucial, you know. So,
Exactly.
so I really like this intimate one-on-one.
Yeah.
Dustin, what was your first trainers competition that you went in?
First one I was in was the Heart of the Horse, and when they had it in Pincher Creek, I think it was 2021. Yes, would have been.
Did you feel the pressure a little bit being your first one? Were you able to block that out of your mind? Or?
Well, yeah, it was, I mean, yeah, you want to talk about turn pale, talk on a mic.
Yeah.
But it was kind of easy because we lived down around there, and most people there were friends and family. So that part of it made it easier, you know, probably than if I was just thrown to the wolves with a bunch of people I never knew. You know, everyone sure helped, my friends and family kind of supported me, helped me get through it, you know, and I was a little bit lost. I was like, after that first day, rode my colt, and I was done. And the second day, we saddled and rode him. I stepped off him. It was like only half hour, and I was like, can I go somewhere? And they're like, you can't leave the round pen. And I was like, I don't know what to do, because if I was at home, I'd be out the gate and gone, you know.
Exactly.
So I was really lost that second day, and then kind of come back to myself on the third day, and just kind of got back to being me. And yeah, and it was a good learning experience, you know. Definitely got me. I mean, I got friends and family, and Harley, he was up here Friday, and we've started a lot of colts together, and we traveled and, you know, do the first 2 weeks. We done some of that together for probably just about 10 years, you know, and he's like, man, I haven't got to see you talk yet because you haven't made any other ones, so that's why I'm here. I want to see you talk. He goes, anyway, yeah, so it was a good deal.
How is it different with you guys doing Road to the Horse the same as Heart of the Horse? Those are 2-hour sessions, right?
Yeah, the first day you pick 2 horses, and you got 15 minutes to each one, and then you took the one you wanted, and then it was like an hour and 45, I think.
Hour and 45 total time, but working time is an hour and a half. There's a mandatory break.
Mandatory breaks, right?
For
I've seen that bite some guys in the Road
Yeah.
to the Horse as well. Yeah.
Right. The mandatory 10 minutes for the horse and the first hour, and 5 minutes for the handler, if I remember right, and then another 5 minutes he had to take. So at least 15 minutes of non-working time for the horse.
And the colt's in that round pen for roughly 2 hours, though, throughout all this?
It's about an hour and 45 minutes
Hour
altogether.
45. Well, from watching you guys here this weekend, I'm seeing that 45-minute mark is kind of the sweet spot. You know, if you guys might need 55, you might need 35, but and you've all talked about in your sessions about trying to save our horse for the finals, so I could see how, you're looking at that hour 45 mark. It's probably even harder to save your horse in that situation, I would think. That's when you said you're been on him for a half an hour and didn't know what to do. I could see myself in that same situation. It's got to be tricky.
Yeah, it's definitely different aspect to it. You know, in the second one I was in, I was a little bit better, and I knew I could just kind of relax, take my time because he had time.
Yeah, slow down.
So just slowed things down. So that's all. The more experience you get with it, and the more you get relaxed in front of people, and you gotta take things with a grain of salt. You get listen to people come back and feedback, good, negative, whatever, neutral. Man, I can play a head game on you pretty hard. So I mean, you find out how sure of yourself you are, and just how to handle people in different situations. And I mean, it's good. It's good to hear feedback, all the good, the negative, everything. I mean, I'm not afraid to take criticism, whatever. But depends who's saying it. I won't say nothing back. I'll sit there and listen, but I might just go off my back. But if it's somebody I know and I really value their opinion, I'll darn sure take it to heart, Yeah. But if you take everything to heart, boy, you'll be shredded up to pieces.
Well, and if you haven't had any negative feedback, I don't think you've been in the horse world very long.
Oh,
that's
exactly.
for sure.
Yeah, you're not doing a very good job if somebody hasn't said you're doing it bad.
Do you guys watch each other's sessions?
I don't. I kind of stay in my own little world, and I think there it goes back to the head games, what he's saying. You can get in there and go, well, wait a second, I think I should do what he just did, but it's not part of your program because you're like, I can do what he can do. And you lose track of where you originally started. And I learned that at Road to the Horse, my eyes never left my round pen. Never. I never once looked where it was going on in the audience. I focused on where I was so that my horse knew I was connected to that. Because you can get really derailed really quickly, and then you get really insecure, and then you backpedal and go, wait a second, do I know what I'm doing? I'm not sure, what's he doing? And I'm sure it's this way for both of them, but for me, I go in with a checklist of things I'd like to try, and if I can just check those off and I get momentum and we're moving forward, I just am positive and happy for that momentum. But I try not to, because let's be honest, we're all very different, and I'm going to stay in my universe, in my world, in what works for me, and I just try to adapt to the horse in the situation at that moment.
What about you, Jason? Do you watch the others?
No, I don't want any bad influences.
Yeah,
You also have 2 clinics a day.
Yeah, in all
Probably
truth,
hurts, eh?
I usually typically I do make a point of just not really for the exact same reasons Wylene just said. But short answer, I didn't have the option anyways because I'm doing other clinics as well. So the order we've been going in has been Dustin, Wylene, and then me, I believe, all weekend long. So I walked by at one point as Dustin was wrapping up, and I've seen the last 2 or 3 minutes of a couple of your sessions just because that was when I was kind of coming along, getting ready to do mine.
That's about right.
So it really wasn't an option. Having said that, I don't really want the option. So.
I was pretty worried at my first one, and my dad wasn't here. He was here in Red Deer, and I was like, well, the other guys are already on, and I just barely got saddled. And he's like, well, I don't know why you're worried about it. You can't work their horse anyways.
So true.
Yeah, and it kind of calmed me down for a minute. I'm like, okay, blood comes back to your face.
Yeah.
We didn't ask you, though, Jason. What was your first trainer challenge?
Well, the trainers' challenges, and I'll kind of include the horse expos with this.
For sure.
And that I found them very, very hard to get started into. And the reason being, I'm kind of, being from Ontario, within the horse world, there's a huge horse population there. There's a ton of horse people there, but it's not considered central in the horse industry by a lot of people. So the reason I'm saying this is, I went along, we were always in the horse business in a big way. We raised a lot of horses, bought a lot of horses, sold a lot of horses, and trained a lot, but I almost had absolutely no connections to anybody that had any influence within this part of the industry. So I didn't know any clinicians because I was more self-taught. I didn't have any connections and stuff like that. And basically, if I asked to get into something, they're like, who are you? And I said, and they're like, well, that's nobody. So who'd you learn from? I'm like, myself. They're like, bug off. And so actually how I got into my first one was, they said, well, at least send us a videotape of you doing a clinic. And at the time I was like, I don't do clinics, which was another black eye, because I was showing a lot of horses because we were selling a lot. I was used to demoing, but it wasn't considered clinics by anybody. So actually my wife was had a group of students one day that she would go out and teach, and all their parents came over one evening just to see all her foals and see the horses and stuff like that. So they came out, and just be quick, she mentioned the idea to me, and I said, do you guys want to watch a colt get started? And everybody's like, yeah, that'd be cool. So anyways, they all circled around the round pen, and Bronwyn flipped on a video camera, and then I sent it to somebody and said, I was doing a colt starting clinic, and I thought I would send this along. Meanwhile, no one knew there was a colt starting clinic. This was just a random group of people. But I got on the horse, sent it to an expo. That was just enough to get my nose in the door on one. And then I was trying to get into one out here, but they wanted to see a little bit more. So I kind of went to some really small little colt starting competitions in the U.S., and they were the type of ones where you had to get on the dirt road that led to the path that led to the event that was going at it. Anybody down that road only played the banjo type situation and stuff like that, but I'd go to those, and then Bronwyn got a few times filming me doing those, and I got quite a bit done in them, and then I would kind of send that off to some other events, and I basically then piggybacked the colt starting events into the expos and doing clinics at the expos and that type of thing. So it was a very long, winding road to be able to really do something like this for me.
Yeah, I've said this before about trainer challenges. We used to host one at the Danes Ranch that was, it was open, so we made it jackpot style. So I would round up as many breeders as I could, and we'd run in just random guys. You come, pay your $250, winner take all type of thing. And there should be scouts for this type of stuff, because we'd have guys come in that I'd never heard of, and they wouldn't say one word the whole time. We didn't have a mic, but they were so handy with horses. They didn't have social media, nobody who knew who they were, and it was amazing what they could do with a colt. So sometimes there's guys out there trying to get into these deals that you have no idea how handy they are. Just because they're not good at social media don't mean they can't work a horse.
Yeah, those are great fun. That was at the Ivan Danes Country Music Picnic, and actually we had 3 round pens going at once.
Yep.
In the big arena. What I loved is I could do the commentary horseback with just a wireless headset.
And a
if
guitar.
they wanted, they could have a wrangler on horseback helping them.
Yep.
Or they could work their colt on horseback. And I'd wind up, flagging them or just settling their colt down when they got on or anything like that. So.
Well, and with it being an open format, we did no rules other than you can't be mean to the horses. So if you had a new style or whatever, but yeah, it was good to see some people step out there because it would be hard to step into this industry. I was fortunate my dad was a horse trainer, but
The nice thing too is, as soon as they were ready, and they were all ready after about 5 minutes in the saddle, open the gate, let me out. I want to go out in the big arena.
So I think on that one too, something that's a little different there is within some of the bigger events, part of it is being brand name to draw a crowd.
For sure.
And that the one thing though I would say with that is sometimes the brand name doesn't start many colts and stuff like that. So you could be famous and be very good at it. I'm not knocking that at all, but you might be good at teaching people about another aspect of horsemanship and not so much the colt starting and that. And one thing I think that's kind of fun here is, without sounding like a blowhard, I don't think anyone's going to think that none of us start colts. And that this is kind of what we all do and that type of thing. So, but we all do clinics as well and that. And I think there is a little bit of a line there too, though, because you need the colt starting ability. But for people to take anything away from it, and these are supposed to be educational, you have to be able to explain why you're doing what you're doing for people to get the full value. You're trying to get the horse to get value, but you're trying to get the people to get value too. So I think the people that put together these events, there is such a fine line. They're trying to get both together. So kind of hats off to them when they pull it off like this.
Yeah, they really did this year. It's been a good show.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, can I just jump in here and say that?
Yes,
that it's
please.
been literally the utmost VIP treatment. They've gone above and beyond. The crew has been amazing. Ryan, Haley, everybody who's been involved. Working with the horses has been amazing. Their crew's amazing. And it's just first class all the way. And listen, I've been in big shows, and I had a lot of time and a lot of experience in different elements. And I will say this has probably been one of my favorite events. The crowd's been receptive. Wow. The horses are incredible. The format's incredible. You guys were willing to work with me when things went south on Friday, so it worked out so beautifully. And I mean, it takes a crew and it takes an entire village, and it's been so well put together. I mean, it's been a good camaraderie. There's a lot of acceptance of things, and I love that it is kind of an open format for you to see how people train their horses differently. And you're right, it is hard to kind of get your foot in the door, and I will echo your words about those guys and gals out there that are riding fences that nobody knows about, that are handier than me and everybody here. I know because I've seen them, I've worked with them, and I've been like, you got to come to a colt start, and they're like, no, I don't want to put a mic in my hand. And so I understand exactly what Dustin's saying in that sense. It's like, it takes a certain type of person to do that, but I value being able to be on a stage in a way to be able to showcase and promote what it is with colt starting and what that looks like from different areas and avenues out there.
I think that's what makes this show a success as well, is that everybody loves to watch the Trainer Challenge, but to be able to listen to the Trainer Challenge and see where people are coming from, it adds a whole different additive to it, especially with different styles. And it seems like nowadays everyone's saying this is the right thing to do, that's the right thing to do, but to watch somebody, you guys all three do something different, but you all are saying this is why I believe this, and then by the end of today, we're watching all the things you guys talked about in the first session. It's all starting to come together right before the final, so it's been a bit of a fun journey to watch. I'm sure that's why it's been such a successful show.
Dustin, I'm sure you've come across, like we're talking about here, a lot of guys that nobody knows their names, but they're legends in this fraternity of working cowboys, and that includes women. It's the generic name, but there are all kinds of them. Gang Ranch, Douglas Lake, Quilshana, McIntyre, everywhere you go, these guys earn their living and trust their life to that horse when you get up every day. You've probably seen and worked with lots of them.
Yeah, been around, worked Gang Ranch and out to Saskatchewan, and I've got friends all over, friends down south, so I've been pretty fortunate. I've got to travel, see lots. Been fortunate with the guys I got to grow up around. But yeah, there's lots of guys out there that are darn sure handy, but they don't want nothing to do with a spotlight or a microphone or get in front of a bunch of people, because most of them are introverts. They don't really they don't want to be around people too bad.
That's why they're so good with horses.
They might come watch something, but they're happy standing in the shadows,
Yeah.
And I've been one of those guys. I had one friend worked for me at the gang there, and he's like, man, you've come so far. He's like, I remember working for you, all you wanted to do was chase cows and live in a wall tent 2 hours from town and not talk to anyone. And he's like, I can't believe what you do. And like now, you know, and me too, like I never pictured myself going down this road, you know, but sometimes there's plans for our lives that I don't think we got a whole lot of control. You roll into stuff you thought you'd never would, or end up where, you know, thought you'd never go. And this is one of those for me. I never thought I'd be doing this. I was pretty happy hiding in the trees, punching cows around, riding colts, you know. So
I think there's a correlation to that too, and this is one thing that I wrote down to talk to you guys about, and it's kind of for all three of you, but kind of my passion for riding horses is what made me want to teach. But I feel like after I started teaching clinics and stuff, it almost fueled my passion to ride horses even more. Have you guys kind of found that as well? It's almost like they play off of each other. The more clinics I do, the more I want to ride, the more I want to ride, the more I want to get out and teach people what I've been doing. Do you kind of find that as well?
yeah, I do actually, and it's kind of fun, those clinics, and you can see the change in those horses, even if people don't realize what took place to get the change. But when the end of a deal, towards the end of the session or whatever, and you look around and all them horses are bright, you know, ears are forward, they're not swishing their tails or cranky, and you know, to be able to get, it's kind of neat to play around with to see if you can get change in that horse. You know, and most time people don't even know what just went on, but
Yeah, you got to
when
point it out.
create that, you know, the situation for those horses to come around like that, that's pretty cool, and people always walk away with it. I mean, you just can't. I mean, I've been told things so long, you know, over and over, and then all of a sudden, 10 years down the road, you're like,
Smacks you in the head, eh?
that's what they
Yeah.
meant, you know. And because you can't go and just learn everything overnight. It don't work like that, you know. It darn sure helps to get the right guys to help you to get going, but you still got to put in the time, and you still got to dedicate your life to get to close to the areas where you want to go. Like it's just not a weekend thing or what you think about in the evenings. You live it and breathe it, you know. And if you
Knowing
don't live
what
it
to
and
do
breathe
and
it, you won't get
being
there.
able to do it is two different things too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What about you, Wylene? Is that kind of where you find a lot of your passion from too, is the teaching and the riding as well?
Yeah, I'm going to echo his words. Dustin, you're right. I always find that words don't teach, and people have all the best ideas on the planet, and they watch a bunch of videos, and they read, and they study. But actually physically putting your hands on the lead line, or putting your hands on the rein or the rope or the saddle, or getting your body in the saddle is where you really put the rubber to the road. And I was really fortunate growing up, and I give my mom a lot of credit and my parents a lot of credit for, and at the time I didn't realize I was being groomed and prepared for this life, exactly what you're saying. I never saw myself being a teacher or coaching people. In fact, as a kid, I broke my first colt when I was 8 years old, and through the tutelage of my mom, having me go up the main, down the rein, and falling off on these colts, and, you know, I never said a word. I was just the body. I was her body on the horse because she physically couldn't do it. So I became her rider. And for years, I never talked. I just rode. Then she'd be like, all right, Wylene's going to go out there and she's going to get on this horse and she's going to blank, 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 blank. And I would just execute the maneuver when she asked for it. And as I got older, when I hit about 17, I started my very own colt that I bred and raised that I wanted. And I had a couple people come to the house and want to watch me. And they're like, well, what are you doing there? And I was like, well, you know. The thing, because I had never spoke it. And I realized right then I had to become a teacher and someone who could explain what I was doing. And the hard part of that, and I know they'll understand this and they can relate, is that you're sometimes out of breath or you got other things to focus on. The last thing you want to do is open your mouth and try to explain what you're doing right in the heat of the moment. And so there's a delicate balance there, and that's a craft in and of itself. That's where you become a master of what your craft really, truly is.
Yeah.
And so for me, I feel like I was being prepared, and I love what you said about it's not till later on you went, oh, that's what that means. Because now I've heard it 100,000 times, but now it actually makes sense to me. I feel it. And my mom used to say it's a fabulous feel. There's a fabulous feel you're trying to gain with that horse and that connection. And when you feel it, then it all clicks, and that's the magic of why we do this and why we go the miles and we travel and we have sleepless nights and we have arguments with people over what we believe in. It's because you have passion for it, and it's worth it, and it means something to you.
Jason, I'd change this question a little bit for you because we're talking about where teaching and and training come together. But as a self-taught trainer, it's something that I was going to kind of ask you about, because I come from a family of horse trainers. You're a self-taught horse trainer. How much has teaching evolved your training style and your passion and your skills? Like, that's got to be coming from a different place, is it not?
Yeah, I think so. Just one point I've heard before said, you don't really understand a subject until you teach it. So
That's a good point.
I think that is a very true thing. Mine was just a little different in that we got into, we were just buying, I would train, my family would buy horses, I would train them, and we would sell them. That would kind of got to be the plan. And when it came right down to it, my dad is very, very good with people. He's very good at talking to people. You can meet him and think you've known him forever. He's good at sales. He's good at customers, da-da-da-da. And I was kind of always shy and kind of a little bit fumbly, bumbly around with folks.
I don't see that.
No, that's true. And so what ended up happening, though, was because I was always the one riding the horses, I knew the details that he didn't know. So originally he would kind of explain things to people, but then they would want the fine points that he couldn't really tell them. So I kind of had to do it. And that was awkward for me because I would get one extreme or the other. Sometimes they'd ask me something and I'd give them a one-word answer. And the next time I think, well, I can't do it like that. So the next time I sound like a used cheap car salesman, like da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and it was forced and awkward. And I kind of had to find that balance point. And then a lot of times when people would be coming to look at a horse, like really it turned into a bit of a coaching seminar anyways. I would demo them, then they would ride them. I'd have to explain them through things. So I actually kind of was getting my teaching underway, helping people with horses that they were getting on for the first time, which is kind of an awkward thing if I'm being honest about it. So then people were always asking, do you do clinics? And I, no. But then some folks asked a little bit more serious. They said, I would put together a clinic. Would you be part of it and teach the thing? And I was like, fine. The first clinic I was ever at, I was the clinician and stuff like that. And most of the people in the clinic had either bought horses from us and always had kind of been waiting to see if we would do one, or they were friends of them. So that's kind of what got me going down the clinic road.
Oh, cool. We were going to do a little bit of a recap, but we've been touching on some pretty cool stuff. I would like to ask you guys, maybe kind of go all through. We'll start with you this time, Jason. And I think I know the answer to this from watching your session. You and I have talked about it, but I find in trainer challenges, watching them, I watch Road to the Horse every year. Any trainer challenge I can find, it's just been an addiction of mine. But do you find, or if you could guess, of a turning point or a big breakthrough that you had with your horse, when was it and what was kind of going on there?
With my particular colt, I think there was a few smaller breaking points as opposed to one big one. And one little thing, for instance, he was only in that pen obviously a handful of times, but he was super stuck to the gate trying to get out. So he would just keep getting jammed up. Having said that, I think he was going to get jammed up somewhere anyways. He just picked that gate because that was the most likely spot. But he was forward in a sense, but he was also kind of where he would shut down, but it was almost more of a mental shutdown, and I feel like the gate was kind of his excuse. And that was one thing that I was wondering about a little bit is I do tend to not go in and find a fault and hammer on it. I tend to chip away, leave it alone for a while, come back, chip away again later, and stuff like that. So sometimes I feel like people watch me and think that I'm skipping over things, and it's not. I'm very aware that issue is there. I just choose to kind of sand away at it as opposed to chop through it.
Chop it down,
and yes, so I was very aware of that. Another one is that his resistance comes out when he doesn't like something. All his resistance kind of shows up through his head and neck. He fights his face a little bit. Same deal. I kind of just tried to smooth that out over time. Having said that, every time I felt like I would put him away, having worked away at that, the next day he would come out and be better for it. So I felt like there was mini breakthroughs as opposed to one major breakthrough.
Just like to remind all of our vendors that your booths must remain up until 4 o'clock. Your booths must remain up until 4 o'clock. Thank you very much.
I got it. Our boots must remain up until 4 o'clock.
I'm about to put my boots up for a while after this weekend.
Oh, booths, not boots.
That third session you had, when that face came together and he got off the gate, that's what I was thinking of. So the same thing you're talking about. That's when I saw your horse really change and you guys start to click for sure. What about you, Wylene? With you and Scooby, I definitely have a moment that I was thinking of when you kind of had a breakthrough. I know he was pushy and in the beginning, but he was quiet. And sometimes when the horses are pushy, people immediately think that because they're quiet, he's an easy horse to train. But it does come with its own list of problems, and especially in a format like this, it can be just as hard. But once he got his feet moving, I felt like that was the breaking point. Am I kind of on right track there?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, he's been a fun colt to work with. I mean, to be really honest, he's been one of the easiest I've ever started. I mean, he's been a joy to work with, and he's never really said no. I mean, clearly he does colt behavior, but he's very willing to try, and I love the try. The try is what I really praise. Where it really shifted for me was actually on that first day on Friday. I felt like once he started to actually connect the dots of what I was asking him to do, he got it. And I felt that as far as even my stops and even stepping off of him. And then yesterday when I just pulled out different obstacles and things, that was not even a concern for him. And most horses, it would be a massive concern for them. So when you have it to where it's not even a challenge, then it's like, what's your next thing to focus on? And so to me, it's how do I help this horse have long-term success? So I realize that in the round pen, there's only so much you can really get done. And I can feel that he gets a little sticky, and there's a little bit, I really echo your words on the head and neck getting up high. So I don't really want to pull on him and just make it a problem and force him to do what I ask him to do. Instead, I want him to choose it. And what I've noticed about Scooby is I'll allow him to figure it out. And I don't micromanage it. I allow him to mess up and then go, oh, I thought about it. I think I'm going to change. And he's done that multiple times.
He's looking for it.
Yeah. And that's my goal. Every time I want it to be his idea to where he goes, oh, I know the answer to that. Or she's going to guide me and there's where I go. And so, but today when I rode him, feeling those stops that he had today were just to the moon. I was just like, he's incredible. And I mean, I was clicking around there pretty fast, and I wanted to be able to have him at any speed and still have him in the palm of my hand. And that's what I felt. Yeah. And I know that he was willing, and I know that he was soft. And is he perfect? No. But he's showing so much progress. I just love that about him. And it just gives you insight to who the horses are and how well-bred they really, truly are, that they've bred such good minds into them. They're gentle by nature. Fantastic horses to teach. Love it. Like I said this first day, I would be out of a job if they were all like this.
Or a job would be a lot more fun.
Exactly.
Dustin,
I had such a great time with him.
I'm glad. He's a nice one, too. Actually, all three of them have been great. If you guys have watched this year, every session, I don't know how they're going to bring an even pen like that again. I don't think any of you guys would trade your horse out for a different one, would you? I think everybody's pretty happy, eh?
I mean, I'm happy. I would, I'm up for any challenge. So if they said, hey, you guys got to switch horses, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah. Well, we might do that one.
I'm crazy. So.
We might do that one year. That actually looks pretty fun.
You're welcome,
Dustin,
everybody.
what I saw with your horse, one of my favorite things out of all your sessions, when that horse kind of got a little bit squirrely and he kind of wanted to grab and run off there, you could hear the crowd holding their breath and everybody was nervous. You kind of just grabbed a hold of him. You never picked up on your halter, and you just loved on him, and you let that horse kind of have that forward motion. And from then on, your forward motion has been solid throughout that colt with confidence. And somebody asked me about it after, and I said, to be able to do that, you can't teach somebody to do that. You just have that much confidence in the colt and your riding and everything else. But I truly thought that was a breaking point, because if you'd have pulled on him, I think you'd have lost to some of the great stuff that you got going on right now.
Yeah, well, I think if I would have drug on his face, he would have went up and down.
He might have pitched a little, yeah.
Pouring gas on the fire.
He could do that a little bit, So that's just, it's something you can't teach that. It just comes with riding, and you gotta be able to have balance. And if you don't naturally have the balance, do not start a colt.
Oh, man.
At all, because, and it is, and it's cool that people want to learn and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if you haven't started a bunch and you don't want to dedicate your life to learn to start a horse properly, seek out somebody that does, because you're going to save yourself a world of problems. And and there's guys out there that are better than others, and find someone that fits what you like, because that is when right in that area, when you're that first ride. Well, I had a kid come ask me, he's like, well, you do that with one that's farther on? I said, no, but that's so critical on the first ride. One gets scared, takes off. Even if they start bucking, there's, you're way better off just riding it out, rubbing them or whatever, or hanging on dear life or whatever, just, and hope you come through there unscathed without coming off and hanging a stirrup and put something really bad in there. Or if you do get bucked off, it comes out clean. Because everyone gets bucked off, I get bucked off. It is what it is. I'm not ashamed to say it. And and so, in that spot, again, like, if you can rub on them horses and let them go, and like that kid asked, and like, and if it would have been the second ride done that, I would have kicked his hip out of gear.
Yeah.
You know, but it's so critical, that first bit, because they don't know what's going on. They're pretty confused. Nobody's been up there, you know, and some horses will be good about it and some won't, you know. But if alls I know is I don't have near the horses buck with me as I used to when I first get on, and that is one of the main keys. And being able to stay relaxed. If you're tight up there and you're puckered up, I mean, something that you're gonna, you know, they'll feel it. But if you can stay relaxed, just kind of let them, try to comfort them more and be their buddy.
Yeah.
More than that going to work out in your favor.
I think what that does too, and I think that, you know, a lot of guys that I looked up to growing up starting colts, I mean, my dad included, but some of the greats from years ago, they'd always start them with nothing on their head, and they'd talk about how, you know, being a prey animal, if that horse feels like he can run away and nobody traps him to stay there, that fear's going to go down. So that colt kind of was testing to see if he could get away from whatever it was, and he felt like he had a little bit of an option to leave. That gives him a little confidence too, right?
Yeah, that does. And like I say, there's no black and white. I'd like to point that out. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I say, okay, well, 99% of horses I wouldn't touch their head, but I have rode a few where just feathering them along has saved them horses from coming apart.
Yeah.
You know, but those are kind of special cases. But 9 times out of 10, you're better off leaving them alone.
Yeah.
You know,
If you can
but to get
stick
to
'em.
that point and understand that, you're going to have to ride the numbers. It is, you know, there's no way around it. To learn that feel, and when you gotta go there to learn what it feels like to not want to go there. You know, because if you don't know how that horse feels in that area, someone can tell you, but if you don't know what the feel is, you know, it was no different than when I went and started starting colts for Gaunt cutting horses, you know, and then he'd put me on some of them real good ones that won a pile of money, you know, and then to learn what a good feel on a turnaround actually felt like. I mean, I had people explain it, but until you've actually felt it,
yeah.
you don't know what you're searching for,
Yeah.
you know. So, I mean, that's just kind of it's just an example, I guess, where it's real black and white, like, and then where those real bad turnarounds are, you know, it's like, oh, well, now I know that wasn't as good as I thought.
Yeah.
You know, or it can go the other way too. Like, I had one good friend, and I worked for, and he showed cutters and whatnot. And actually, he was a cow boss of the gang when I worked for him before I was. And he's like, man, work on these rangy horses. If you can get them turning around, doing all that, and then go get on one that's bred to do it, and you'll see how easy it really is, you know.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of horses out there that start making people think they're way better than they are, you know.
Yeah.
And the horse is doing 99% of it.
Yeah.
They'll do it despite of their guy, you know.
Yeah. One question I wanted to ask, just being a competitor in the past myself, and something that comes up a lot. Do we have time for any more, Hugh?
Oh, yeah, we got lots of time.
Lots of time,
Yeah.
perfect.
It's only 3:15.
This one comes up a lot, and this is the first show, I don't know if you guys have been following around on the program, but I've never seen a show post the judging cards. So you guys actually get to see what the competitors are being judged on. And I thought that was really cool, because there is always, you know, why did this person win, why did that person win, kind of a conversation. So I thought that was really cool of Horse Expo to pull that off this year. And one thing that I've never heard trainers talk about very much as far as the judging cards is, and I'll start with you, Jason, what's one thing you would like to see added to the judging card?
That's a hard one. Actually,
It is.
To be quite honest with you, I almost like that they took some stuff off.
Okay.
And so like one that used to be on there, and not necessarily here, but lots of places, one is difficulty of horse. And that I almost like here they can factor that in as they see fit. Because I felt in the past sometimes you would see somebody with an easy horse, they would be making mistakes, the horse would be acting up, jumping around, spooking, stuff like this, and they'd be getting 10 out of 10 and 9 out of 10 for difficulty. So it was almost like poor training was saving the day on the scorecard for them.
Yeah.
And,
Judging is such a subjective thing, eh? It really
yeah,
is.
and to me it almost felt sometimes like by having a tough horse and making it as smooth as you could, you were penalized for it because you didn't score for it and you had more work to do.
You're reading my mail.
So
Yeah.
that one there, I like that it's factored in, but not its own thing, if that
Yeah.
makes any sense at all.
No, I agree.
And so that's one, and I'm drawing a bit of a blank because I had one other thought on one and I cannot remember what it is right now.
Progression?
Progression, I think, is a very good one. again, you have to factor in whether the horse is hard or easy. So it kind of, I guess, ties in a little bit with that one. Another one I think sometimes with the scorecards is, I feel like I like in this one that it says, is this working towards the finals? Because sometimes I think a person can go out and do, I don't want to say irrelevant stuff, but they can find some little area, pick away at it a lot, and then say, yes, they progressed in that area. But it's like, but that area is just one little area. It doesn't relate to the overall scheme of creating a well-trained horse or getting the horse ready for the finals. Yeah. So you could say, I'm going to work on getting him good with his feet and work on it for all the time. You could say that was a lot of progression, but that's a very small part of a horse's scheme of life.
Good luck getting them through the car
but
wash,
it's only one thing.
Yeah.
And so this part is, does it work towards the finals? I think that is a good factor, that is a good thing on the scorecard.
Yeah, and I get into the same thing with those 2 points, so I'm glad you brought that up. And I think working towards the finals is our job as trainers. If you guys are out there and you have a job to do, same with if you're going to go work one on a ranch, or I'm sure if you guys have been to a branding, there's always at least one guy there that is not ready to be there, and he ends up making a mess. So it's our job as trainers to make them ready for that. So I do agree. I think that's a good one too. What do you think, Wylene? Anything you would add to the judging card?
You know, I don't know that there's anything I'd add to it. I was really curious when I came into this experience. I was like, you know, what are the rules? And are there rules? And I love that there was a lot of flexibility and leniency, because as you are familiar with Road to the Horse, it is very meticulous. They are very corrective about what you use, how you use it. There's a bunch of rules, which I really dislike, because in honesty, in any one of us, if we all had a camp set up and we were working colts, we're going to do what we need to do in that necessary situation. So I actually love the freedom of being able to do what I would do at home. And I think other competitions should implement that, truly, because I think they hinder themselves, and this is why some guys and gals don't want to jump into the competition on that big stage, is because they can't actually do what they do at home, because it's so controlled and it's so micromanaged and manipulated that they actually aren't doing what they would do at home. I know I didn't do what I would have done at home when I was there at Road to the Horse. And necessary things that needed to happen. You know, Road to the Horse allowed us to have a saddle horse. Do I think we should have one here? Not necessarily. I don't know. I was really grateful for the way that it was set up. And I really actually love the 45-minute session. I really do. I feel like that's about how I work at home. I like to implement and show and then move on. Yeah. And then come back to it. And it's like they sat and marinated in that all night, and they were ready to be better the next day. And like you said, I saw big changes in my horse. And just going back to what you asked about earlier, did I see a change? One thing that I really felt the other day, yesterday, was I had him in the bridle and I went to curbside him and I went to pull and he started to back up, and right then I had to let him go. And then right then there was the trigger. And I said this yesterday, I say it everywhere I go, the hardest thing to teach is release, let go, let go. Because we want to control and micromanage everything. And the way to the magic is always to let go. And that's exactly when he did that with that colt, I was like, that's what I would have done. You cannot scare a horse. When they're learning and they're trying, you got to let them go. And that's, if you don't have the guts, I'm going to add to the balance part of it, you got to have the guts to let go. And that's hard to teach, because people get in their head and they don't get into their body. And so you must be able to manage and handle your body control, your rein management. And that's where people and situations get really ugly, and people get hurt, horses get hurt, because they're not prepared, and then they create the problem they're trying to avoid. So as far as what I would have wanted to see differently, I love how it's been. And perfect. I'm grateful that it's been this way, because it's been so flexible and easygoing. And that's how it should be in an environment when you're working a young colt that's going through pressured situations he never asked for. And so there's a lot we're asking a lot of these colts. And in a short amount of time, you know, there's scrutiny from every side of it that you want. There's going to be people that are against it. They say you're working them too fast. There are going to be people saying you're working them too slow. So I say you just go with what you got and do the best you can do. And that's all you can. At the end of the day, we're doing the best we got. And, you know, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be here. I'm humbled to be on this panel and to be with such great people and have great horses to work with. That's my ideal, perfect world. So I'm a lucky one.
Right on. How about you, Dustin? Anything you thought about as far as the judging sheets and stuff like that, or are you just out here working colts and doing your thing?
Yeah, I don't. The judges can do what they want.
I figured you were going to say
'cause
that.
You get that's just. I'm here to ride. I'm here. I'm here to try to demonstrate a good way to start a horse, safe way of doing it. I'm more here for that. Like I don't. I've been down that road. I mean, I've rodeoed. I've been. I've had lots of experiences of judges and ranch rodeos, whatever, ranch horse competitions. All that. I don't really care. They can mark it how they want. I'm still gonna go home. I'm still gonna go home, decompress, relax. Probably won't want to go anywhere for a month. And
I've heard
and
one of
just
our
let it go,
judges say
'cause-
that exact same thing when him and I were at a trainer challenge in Manitoba. They had some funny sheets. He said, I don't care. I'm just going to work my horse and go home, eh? Yeah.
well, I mean, then that's all he could do, and to try to, try to please judges. If someone doesn't like something I do, that's okay. They could think what they want. It's it's free. Supposed to be a free country. Like everyone's entitled to their opinion, and it's good to be able to listen. Just because somebody doesn't agree doesn't mean it's bad, or you can still listen and hear their side, and whether you agree with it or not, you can still be pleasant, And I think that's something that's hard to do and to let go of, And then so at the end of the day, why are we here? Why are we really doing it? And that's something I've really struggled with, going through this fourth time, and I'm getting closer to where I want to be, And it's not here. I really don't. If I end up winning, I don't care. It's not what I was here to do, And you get too worried about winning, you're going to create yourselves a lot of problem. I'm just here to do to work my horse the best way and my best way of capability I can, and that's all I could do at the end of the day, and just let it be.
Yep. Well, and we talk about trainer challenge a lot in my family, if you guys know my dad and stuff. And one thing I think that the judging sheets or the trainer challenge is trying to accomplish is to try to make sure that they're judging the horse's reaction to the trainer, not the judge's reaction to the trainer. If you're not doing something the way somebody thinks you should be doing, but it's working, then what are we talking about, right? That's making the horse better. That's going to be making the people better. I think that's all kind of working. So I wanted it when they said it was going to be the trainer's hot seat. I was trying to think of a hot seat question. That's the best I could come up with. Something about the judges. How much time we got there?
We got, I don't know, this is so much fun. Do you guys want to delay the finals and we'll do another half hour?
I am having fun, yeah.
We've got to be over there by 4, so we're getting close to
Yeah.
wrap-up time. But I was just thinking of something that Jonathan and I talk about quite a bit, and I'm privileged to have him for a neighbor because we can brainstorm and get to ride together. But we're talking about a time when they had about a remuda of, I think there was 15 horses, and there was 5 top-level trainers. But half of these horses were performance horses, well-schooled. The others were pretty much broncs and had hardly been touched. And they told the trainers to go in there with their halters, figure out whether the horse was broke or not. And it was amazing what happened. They made broncs out of some of those really, really gentle broke horses, and some of the broncs got along just fine. I thought the interesting perspective of, or how perceptive sometimes we got to be about a pen of horses we're looking at.
Yeah, and just something I want to mention is that I've had a lot of people come up and give their insight, and I always say, I'm going to say exactly what Dustin said. I'm here because I want to have a great time and educate the public and teach a horse to be a nice horse. Win, lose, draw, it's an experience. We get to meet incredible people, and it's an honor to be on this stage. It's an honor to be in the round pen. And I was always raised to have fun and to walk away better. And if you didn't walk away with it, it doesn't mean you're less. It just means you learned, and that's okay. It's okay to learn, and it's okay to tip your hat when somebody got something done quicker than you or better than you, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you're less. It just means you just got to go home and work harder. And it's hours and hours and miles, and it's a never-ending spiral staircase. It just keeps going. You just got to keep walking upstairs. You just got to keep going because you're leveling up every day. You're leveling up every day. And I've adapted and evolved my horsemanship into a completely different version from when it was even 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And so as we're growing and learning and evolving and changing and building it the way it works for us, to me, if you only focus on the winning aspect of it, and you compared yourself to other individuals, you steal yourself of that joy of having the experience with the animal. And so I really like to stay concentrated on and focused on what I'm experiencing in that moment, that it is magic and it did work and it was fun and that the horse was better than he was when he started. And that's all I focus on. The rest is just gravy. I mean, the rest is having connections with amazing people and having great camaraderie and support and having a great event to be a part of.
I think our time is just about gone here, Cade, so we're going to have to kind of wrap this up, but I'll tell you, you three have just been so much fun here in this little stage. Nobody knew for sure how this was going to go, but it was just terrific, I thought. And Cade, my buddy, man, oh man, you're a natural when it comes to hosting too. You're doing a fine job.
I enjoy the horsemanship side, so it just keeps coming out faster than I can think about it. 1 sec before we're done here, guys. I need you guys to start chucking these into the crowd. We got some shirts. We got Moxie's gift cards for everybody. You better start hollering or they won't throw it at you.
Hey, we're turning them into rock stars here.
Hold on, I'm going to see how far I can throw this.
Holy cow.
Not at me.
That's just like they do at a wedding. They toss the bouquet to see who's going to be next. And I was thinking they should do that at a funeral sometime. Toss the flowers on the casket out and see who's going to be next.
It's like an Easter egg hunt out there. It belongs to me. Just bring it back to the booth later.
If we can bring that bracelet to the finals for Wylene, please.
I think everybody missed that. She tried to punch me.
I want it on record that she tried to get me.
I didn't try to punch you. What a crybaby. What do you mean punch you?
I think that was a distraction. I wouldn't be able to see in the finals.
Oh, that's funny. I grew up with boys, so if you didn't know how to throw, you got left behind. So
Fair enough.
You know.
All right, guys. Well, we will let you get ready for the finals. Thanks so much for sitting and talking with us. It's kind of a cool additive to see your guys' thoughts on some of this stuff, and wish you all luck in the finals. I can't wait to see how it shakes down. This is going to be good watching.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, thanks so much. And honestly, not trying to, I don't know how to word it, but I think it was really fun having the pair of you commentating here. I know Hughes always does this and does such a great job. He knows when to step in and say something to kind of fill some dead air and when not to. And with you, Cade, I thought it was really great, too, because you've done enough of these that your insight on it. I thought your timing was great on that, too. And, again, got absolutely nothing but positive things to say about this event. I really love being here.
All right, thanks, Jason. All right, guys, let's get ready for the something as always. That's why the wife don't send me to the store anymore. We need to draw for order, go in the finals. And maybe why I got my little helper here, we're going to let Wylene draw first because she was on a plane when we drove last time. Do you want to draw a card out for Wylene? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. All right. Yeah. Wylene will go third in the finals. You want to draw one out for Jason? You trust my kid? I don't know. Two. It's the same order, yeah. Or no, Wylene and Jason switch. The reason I made Dustin go last, I wasn't being mean. He got to draw first for horses. All right, guys, we're ready now, I think. One more thing.
Just got another quick text to remind you that this beautiful Horse Expo jacket goes to the trainer who is the people's choice. And the, wow, beautiful custom-made pair of chinks there will go to the champion. So good luck to all of you.